everybody, to the Love and Learn podcast. We're so glad you're with us today. It is 11 o'clock at night, and the night is young.
No, it's not.
For two young parents. We are so ready to take on the world.
How is it almost 11?
You ask really great questions.
I came and sat in here at 10 o'clock. You made me wait 48 minutes. I sat here in this chair just like this.
You know what? I was cleaning. Okay.
You cleaned prior to 10 p.m.
Yeah, then I started getting ready for the podcast. I have my priorities straight. Come on.
Hey, thank you for cleaning.
You're welcome. I know it's my one responsibility to clean the bathroom every week. So guess what I did?
You cleaned the bathroom?
I scrub-a-dub-dub that toilet.
Thank you.
Yeah, babe.
So clean.
It's going to be a nice surprise when you get in there.
I'm so excited. Did you fold the toilet paper and everything to have a little flower?
No, I was going the other way with I left a turd in there or something.
Oh.
Like, oh my gosh, did you stamp it with a flower or something?
Actually, don't worry about it. You don't need to clean the bathrooms anymore.
You said it was my job to take care of the bathroom, so I did my job.
Wait, I want to say something real quick.
Yeah, go.
If you're watching the video version of this is a vibe. You can see it, but no one can hear. If you want to know what I'm talking about, you got to go. I'm just kidding. I'll tell you. I put Dr. Pepper into a wine glass, and it feels. And
you feel
fancier.
like an adult.
I do. We're not wine drinkers. We occasionally will. But this is a better purpose for this glass.
I do the same thing as I warm up milk and I put it in a wine glass and it helps soothe me.
It helps you romanticize the little moments. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, I'm having a coffee because I got a lot of crap to do after this.
Yeah. Well, on that note, should we get into the National Day?
I think that it is a wonderful time to transition into the National Day.
Yeah.
What day is it, Liz? What do we got going for us today?
Here's why I think it's a great time.
And happy Friday, everyone.
Hey.
What?
I'm talking. Here's what I think it's a great way to transition. Because September 29th, Friday, September 29th, is National Coffee Day.
Hey. Cheers. This is why we're married. Is there going to be free coffee deals going on around town? Do you know?
Oh, I
doubt
actually
it.
scroll that far.
Scroll that far
down the list. It just sometimes they say.
I don't think that those websites will say it, but maybe there's a deal for National Coffee Day where it's I don't know, buy one get one half off or something.
Yeah,
like that.
That'd be great. So keep an eye out in all your apps.
Yeah,
we have 2 coffee apps.
We have a lot of coffee apps.
Oh, but yeah, and then take a guess. When was the first evidence of coffee drinking? When did that start?
That was such a horrible way to phrase that question.
I was reading 2 parts at the same time.
Why don't you just reread that for me?
I didn't write down the question. I'm trying to just figure out how to word the question. What was the earliest point in time that coffee was either drunken or there was knowledge about the existence of coffee being a drink?
I think I remember looking up a question on whether or not Jesus drank coffee.
Interesting.
And I think I'm trying to remember, but I don't think that coffee was big at that point in time.
Give me a century.
A century?
Blank century.
I'm going to guess that coffee became popularized.
Not popularized. I'm talking about the earliest credible evidence.
Oh my gosh. That's going to be
drinking.
Mesopotamia then.
Give me a century.
That's got to be I don't know, 14th BC. 14 BC.
I wanted a century. 14th BC century.
Well, there's first century, but then when you hit 0, it's 0 century, and then it's negative century.
So I think I've already given you a hint that we're in century.
All right, we're in centuries. All right,
Thank you.
I'm going to guess the 7th century.
15th century.
Gosh dang it, I was so wrong.
Yeah, the earliest credible evidence of either coffee drinking or the knowledge of the coffee tree appears in the middle of the 15th century in the Sufi monasteries around Mocha in Yemen. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Is that where the origination of the mocha came from?
That's cool.
Is that spelled the same?
No, it's Mokha, but that's pretty cool.
If that's the case, because chocolate is derived from the fruit of the coffee bean.
Is it really?
Well, it can be a flavor of it.
Yum.
There's lots of different types of coffee fruit.
So there in Yemen, that's where the monks first roasted coffee seeds and brewed coffee. much like the way we prepare them today.
I just want to think about the first guy to drink a cup of coffee, and just the first time to experience. Well, there's probably teas that had natural caffeine, but like that fresh brewed cold brew, they're bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like they're going loco crazy over there.
Yeah.
We have a couple of friends that if they have like a sip of cold brew, their hands shake.
I don't like cold brew.
I wonder if like the first guy to do it got like banished from the tribe because they were like, dude, this dude's gone crazy. Drink the coffee and then you just want to have another one and it's like Adderall, but in the 15th century.
No, honestly. I mean, you know this.
Of course I know this.
I think slow. Let me just get it out. But like we've worked at coffee shops, so we learned like there's different components of a perfect cup of coffee. So you have like the aroma, the body, the acidity, and the flavor, all different elements of it. But did you know like what determines those different parts of it? Or no?
The aroma, acidity, what were the other two?
I'm more just gonna tell you. I was just looking for a yes or no.
Well, there's different coffee fruits, right? But then it's
so.
the roasting process.
So so like the roasting process affects the texture of the coffee, whether it's silky, creamy, thick, or thin on the tongue and throat. Oh,
that was me in high school.
Stop it. But like the darker you roast it,
the less caffeine it has.
I'm not gonna finish that sentence because I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay, here's the part that I thought was cool that I'm trying to get at.
All right, sweet.
So to determine the acidity, like the acidity in a coffee, elevation of where it's grown actually affects that. That's
fascinating.
That's the one fact I was trying to get to with all the extra fluff in there that led nowhere.
Thank you so much
Isn't
for
that
adding
cool?
all that fluff in there.
The higher the elevation the coffee grows in, the higher the quality and the acidity. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So like where the bean, I mean, it's important where the beans grow, and we're always told to like tell people that.
Yeah.
But like, that's cool. It's because of the elevation.
Yeah, a lot of beans are grown in Colombia and Brazil, and Chile is another big one. Arabica beans are probably one of the most common, I think, that we see in most stores. But yeah, it's a lot of the mountains that they make a lot of coffee in. Yeah. Just kind of hype. That's pretty sweet. All right, well, fascinating. Well, on another note, this day in history, going to give a little bit of a history lesson for you guys.
I have
3 of them for us because these are honestly like September 29th was kind of popping in history. Got a few pretty big ones. Sometimes it's kind of boring. You're like, what is the best one? It's like, was it like Prince Harry's birthday? Like, that's lame. But this is good. So way back in 1789, the U.S. Congress votes to create a U.S. Army. A version of the Army had been formed under George Washington during the Revolutionary War in 1775, but concerns about the need and power balance of a standing army outside of times of war caused debate in the government. On September 29th, 1789, the first Congress finally passed an act clarifying the Army's role under the new Constitution on the final day of its first session. At the time of its creation, the U.S. Army had about 800 members. Think about that.
Whoa! We go to battle.
No.
Oh, okay.
War was over at this point. We're not. We already did that, honey. And they weren't Roman soldiers. This wasn't 300. But think
BC
about like
century?
the size of your BC century. Think about the size of your high school. Like probably half of your high school was the size of the U.S. military.
Okay, that is when you think about it that way.
How funny is that? Think about like where the like military industrial complex is now.
For the entire United States.
So right now we are spending almost, I want to say $800 billion a year on the U.S. military and like industrial complex. And I mean, 800 billion versus 800 people. We've come a long ways.
$1 billion per person.
But we could have just gave it all to them. What are we doing? So that's wild, but that's an important day in history because we've been in a lot of wars.
Yeah.
And we've needed the U.S. Army. So thank you to all those veterans and those that serve us. We are deeply grateful for you. Indebted to you is what I wanted to say at first. And then I was like, what's the word? We're deeply indebted to you for the freedoms that we have so that a couple of numbskulls like us at 11 o'clock at night can record a podcast without hearing the sound of bombs flying over our house. You never know what you got until it's gone. So thank God for our freedom. And God bless America. All right, the next thing on the list is Lust. I was like going.
I wasn't gonna let you slide on that.
Yeah, you weren't gonna let me slide on that one. The next one on this list is in 1966, Chevrolet introduced the iconic Camaro.
Ooh.
Did you have anybody growing up that was obsessed with Camaros?
No.
Really?
Yep.
No one?
No one.
I'm also talking to a girl right now, so I don't really know why I'm having this conversation about cars.
I don't know. Maybe
Not really relevant.
I think maybe.
Do you even know what a Camaro is?
Maybe Braden totaled a Camaro.
Do you know what a Camaro is?
A car.
Do you know what it looks like?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I was
It
gonna
looks
start.
similar to the other one.
Oh, yeah, the other one. What's that again?
Is it a Dodge car?
A Dodge car? You're thinking of a Mustang, aren't you? A Ford Mustang.
Maybe. Does it look similar to that?
Semi, but they have their
Not a semi.
differences.
I'm just...
Not a semi. Oh my gosh.
All right. Anyways,
But
I think if I'm sorry, Braden, if you're listening to this, and I'm calling you out. I think Braden totaled a Camaro.
Well, Steven totaled a Camaro as
Oh,
well.
really? Look
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah, my grandpa had like a 90s Camaro, and Steven.
By the way, Braden's my
totaled it.
cousin. Steven is his brother. Just thought I'd let you know.
I don't think anyone cares about these facts. They probably
I
just.
don't know if
skip all
anyone
of this.
listens here. Who even listens to this?
Right. But Chevy Camaros are hot. And nowadays they have this new version called the C8 that kind of looks like a Ferrari, and they're all over the place. So Chevy is still going strong.
Congratulations,
But I'm
Chevy.
pretty sure they discontinued the Camaro. I'm pretty sure this is the last year that they were doing
As
it.
they should. People have been totaling it.
So, I don't think that's why. But just a moment of silence for the Chevy Camaro, because it launched like over 30, 40 years ago. And now it's come to an end. There's a moment of silence. All right, last one I got on here for the docket, and it is so much more fun. In 1996, the Nintendo 64 video game system debuts, or I should read it like you, debuts in America.
Why do I read it like that? I've never said it like that.
I don't know. Your brain fog could have caused you to read it like that.
I'm tired.
All the fluff that you brought in with these other questions.
Words.
A limited edition had first been released technically on September 26, but Nintendo is the GOAT. And it was a good day.
True.
I'm sure my dad was having a field day when that came out. He was probably about my age, to be honest. Pretty close to, like 22 years old or so. So that's weird to think about. Like nowadays we have like the iPhone 15 and like the stupid metaverse coming out. And for my dad, it was the Nintendo 64. And he loved it. That's why I bring
the
up my
simpler
dad in this.
times.
All right. Well, that's what we got for you guys for this day in history and the National Day, just our double day, whatever segment we want to call this. That's all we got for you for this next segment.
Our duo day.
All right. So for the topic for today, we got a great one for you guys. We are talking all about how to plan your wedding. So if you've already had your wedding, have a great night. We love you. See you later. Just kidding.
Honestly, though, we don't have much for you.
Yeah.
This isn't going to help you with anything. You might think like, oh, that would have been helpful, but it's not going to help you with anything.
Yeah, it's not going to really do anything.
We hope you shouldn't be getting married.
But
again,
if you're at this point,
but
I mean, if they're listening to this anyways, like they're probably going to listen all the way through. Like they probably never clicked on the
oh, they're
episode
here for
anyways.
us.
Yeah, they're probably here for us. Like my parents are probably going to listen to this and they planned
Hey,
their
Michelle,
wedding
hey,
like
Mike.
25 years ago. But we're also going to, like, if you want to, you can skip to the end for the other stuff, but in here. But for the most part, this is going to be an episode that if you want to share this with your friends and family who are getting married, or maybe are at the precipice of getting engaged, so they're going to start planning their wedding, because this is going to be very insightful for them. And we got a list of different steps, and this is all based on the content that we break down way more in detail with tons of more video footage and written copy in our Ultimate Wedding Guide, which is actually paired with our planner that we're going to be releasing pretty soon here, which is phenomenal and tremendous, and we're very excited about it. But this is just going to be a general overview for you, so that if anyone wants to just get an idea, quick synopsis, spark notes, what do I need to do so I can at least just start doing it, this is going to be the video and episode for you. So with that, jumping right into it, here's your scenario. You get proposed to, or you propose You pop the question, and
Yes,
she
I will marry
says
you. Oh, sorry,
yes.
it's a little early.
Or like my wife, you say no, and then you say yes. And then you say
No.
yes, no, yes. So now you're engaged. And now the next step is what? Wait, what is the next step? Because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh. Well, buddy boy.
She didn't read that very well. It wasn't very smooth. All right, just keep going, babe. Babe, I'm engaged. I don't know what to do. How do I plan a wedding?
Well, buddy boy.
I'm just going to ask very nicely and respectfully to not call me buddy boy.
I'm just a...
All right, bro. Okay, buddy boy. Now that we're engaged, listen up, because this is how we plan a wedding.
No, I'm helping you and your fiance.
Oh,
So
does that make you
buddy
jealous?
Boy. It's also me.
Get on with it.
Okay. You guys are gonna sit down together
Okay.
as a couple
Okay.
because this is not just the bride's job.
Mm.
Let me just say that to start. She might love it. She might be more passionate about it. She also might hate every single aspect of it, and that's okay too. But you, as her future spouse, her partner, you guys should be doing this together. You might not have strong opinions, and that's okay. But you should still be actively participating to whatever degree you can, just so she feels supported. And you guys know that you are preparing for your marriage together. And this wedding day is to celebrate that. So yeah, you guys are going to sit down together and you're going to begin vision casting. This is step 1 to planning a wedding.
What is this character?
I am so tired, but I'm doing great.
She's delusional, guys.
It's one of those things.
We've lost her.
I think it's one of those things where you think you're doing great. You're like, yeah, I'm killing it right now. And then you listen back and you're gonna be like, what? That made no sense.
You're like, what drugs did I put in that Dr. Pepper in the wine glass? What was the rim just laced with?
That made sense. I thought that was...
Yeah, it did. But it was really hard for
odd.
you to cue me into the discussion because it was a much different character.
So, Jared, do you want to tell us a little bit about vision casting?
Oh my gosh, I would love to tell you all about vision casting. Yeah, so like Liz said, buddy boy, you are engaged. And the first thing you should probably do before anything else with the planning process, especially even if you've already like pre-planned out things in your head for how you want your wedding to be. Because I know some girls dream about their wedding day for decades. They're like, I know exactly where it's going to be, what time it's going to be at, who's going to be shooting my wedding, which we've had before. We've had people come up and be like, I literally am not even in a relationship, but you're going to be shooting my wedding when I get married. So some people know ahead of the game what they're expecting for their wedding day. And it's really important to sit down with your partner and actually talk out what your expectations are and how you envision the wedding day.
Yeah.
The stereotypical position is the bride has a ton of vision, or at least a really good idea of what she wants to do. And the groom could not care less. He just goes, how much are we going to have to spend on this thing? What do you need me to do? Okay.
Tell me where to be and when.
Like we were talking with our grandparents when we were visiting up in Oregon. He was like, I just remember I was told to be somewhere at 2:00 and that's just what I did. And that was it. I don't remember the rest of the day. And I was like, what a sweet story, Grandpa, Papa. So that's usually how it goes. But like Liz said, it's so important for you to be on the same page with your partner and actually like put like effort into the planning process with them, because you will realize, one, in this video, but also just in the process, that there is so much that goes into planning a wedding. This is one of the most expensive like events for the average American in like their life. There's very few expenses that are more expensive than this. Like the average wedding right now is $30,000. So if you're going to be spending $30,000 on this one single day, which by the way, for a lot of venues, you only get access to the venue for a certain amount of time. So it might only be like 8 hours. You might be spending up to $30,000 for literally 8 hours. That's like almost $4,000 an hour. That's a lot of money when you put that in perspective. So one, if you're going to be spending so much money on this and you're going to make it such a big day, like you want to put in the time and effort to make this thing worth it. And especially if you're going to be spending so much and you want this to be something that you get to cherish and remember forever. And if you were to take the same mindset with like buying a car or a house. Like you wouldn't just go into it and be like, yeah, sure, whatever. You just choose whatever you want. Like that's a big financial decision and commitment. The downside is that a wedding doesn't become technically an asset that you own after you buy it.
Yeah.
It just is a day. It's like throwing a really big birthday party with a couple of traditions in it, which is wild. So that's just like a weird thing about the industry already, is just how much you have to spend, which we'll talk about with budgeting. But because of how expensive it is, because of how big of a day it is, it's so important for you guys to be on the same page about what you have expectation wise for the day. So if you are someone that wants to have a really like laid back DIY small backyard wedding, or if you want to be someone that wants to invite literally every single coworker you have and everyone you graduated high school with, and you want to do this massive buffet style 4-hour open dance floor kind of night.
Yeah.
Wedding, you have the whole spectrum of what you want, but you both have to make sure that you explain where you're at and what you envision, and then land either somewhere in the middle or compromise for the other if you believe that they have more vested interest into it and you want to support that vision more than that. So that's the first thing to do, is to vision cast, because if you're not even on the same page before you get into everything else, you're going to find so much more like unexpected turmoil and challenges in the process because of these mismanaged expectations or misallocated funds for the budget, or just like different priorities for the day. And then especially if you have like family getting involved with the planning process, then you kind of get this like battle in between of like who gets to say what they want about what should happen on the day of and all that stuff. So make sure you sit down, write it all out, vision cast, talk it over, and get on the same page. The next thing on the list is budgeting. So budgeting is different for every couple, because traditionally you would think that, most people will like have their parents kind of contributing to their wedding.
Yeah, traditionally it's the bride's side who pays for the wedding, but in today's
the bride side pays for a lot of aspects of it. The groom side still pays for some things, but most of the time it is the bride side. But where we are in culture today, the average couple that is getting married are like 28 years old, like around 27, 28. And it's way different to be asking from your parents for so much money when you're already so much older and most of the time somewhat financially established in a career at that point. You've kind of figured out what you want to do. So it's much harder to go to your parents when they're kind of maybe getting ready for retirement or something and being like, we need you to fork up like $40,000 for us. So I won't say that that's like how it works nowadays, because it is all over the place with, DIY budgets to these expensive budgets to if families contributing, if they're not. And nowadays with how family structure is and how broken families are and all of the different like conflicts that we've personally experienced working with couples for the day of and all of that stuff, it's like, they're definitely not contributing financially to their day. Yeah. So you just need to figure out how much money you guys want to spend on your wedding day. Your average wedding cost, like we said, is about $30,000, but you have to decide for yourself if that's how much you want to spend. And the way that you really figure that out is going back to that vision board and figuring out what you want your day to look like. And once you kind of have an idea of what you want it to look like, then you can kind of plan out how much you want to allocate budget-wise to those different aspects. If you're someone that wants to have a elaborate, beautiful backdrop view of the mountains, or this like incandescent beautiful outside patio for like your reception, and you want to have like the best photographers in the state shooting your day, then obviously you're going to be spending a lot of money on those things. And the way you can kind of figure that out is kind of get a price quote from some of them. But generally speaking, we have like in our guide that you'll find that about honestly like 40 to 50% of your budget is primarily for the ceremony and reception space, because they're going to offer and provide for most of your needs and necessities for the day, as far as like the chairs, a lot of the decorations, the tables, the linens, like all of those things. And then on top of that, they might also provide the DJ or the photographer or the caterer.
Every venue is completely different.
Every venue is different, but you just have to figure out like how much do you want to fork up for this thing? Because then once you have an idea of like, okay, well, we're capping this thing at 15,000, then what you're going to have to realize is unfortunately the way that the industry works is that you can't really get away with like a cheap wedding and get to have all of the nice things that weddings usually come with nowadays. Like the price tags for venues and ceremony spaces, and then alcohol budgets, and then catering nowadays with things like inflation now, photographers are so expensive. Even florists can be super
flowers
expensive.
are, yeah.
Like you just don't realize till you start to get into it how crazy expensive things can be. Like you were, talking about how, not in this episode, but in a different one, about how with florals, the first time you reached out to get a couple of quotes, they were like, yeah, it's going to be like $3,000. And you were like, for a headpiece?
Yeah. No, I just sent, because I had Vision Cast, I guess. But I ran it by you. I said, you good
Right.
with this? You said, sounds great. So I was just sending out like my entire, like, here's like the dream florals of like everything. The quotes I was getting back were absolutely absurd. And so I cut that back by a few grand and got the bare minimum. Because honestly, I was the type though, and he doesn't care either. Like I knew florals was a spot in our budget that I didn't care about. It was not a priority when it comes to vision casting. There was certain aspects where I'm like I want a nice bouquet, like this. Like I knew which elements of that category
Yep.
I wanted to spend more on, and other elements that I was okay with, either like DIYing or find a different route or just cutting corners a different way. So.
Yeah. Well, that's huge is kind of in that like vision casting to budgeting is figuring out like what are your must-haves and your priorities for the day, because that will really tell you most importantly like how much your budget is going to be. Because if your number one priority is to have like the best photos that you're going to love for the rest of your life, you're probably going to spend like anywhere from 5 to 10 grand for the most exceptional photographers in your area, or even to fly someone out, the extra cost to do that. So you're going to spend a ton of money on that, but you're going to get that, deliverable of what you desire.
Yep.
If your number one priority is just the overall space and where you're at, then you're going to put most of your money to that.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to figure out like your top to bottom list of like, what do we really care about having expense wise? What do we not care about it the most? And then what you have to figure out is like, what is the cost locally for you to have a wedding? So for instance, we have venue spaces in the Valley where just the venue alone is like $30,000. But we went to, or you didn't go, but I went and shot a wedding in South Dakota, and it was a beautiful venue, gorgeous. But because of its location, it was only like $4,000 for the entire day. And it's way more beautiful than literally anything in the Valley, to be honest. Especially with where like the sunsets and the hills and the Black Hills and that kind of stuff, it's gorgeous. But because of the location, it's so much cheaper, but it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So if you're in like a highly populated, like, rural area or even like a downtown area, your pricing is going to go up a ton. So you just have to start getting price quotes about things in the area and what you're going to have to spend. And then usually that kind of transitions into the next one, which is picking a date, which those kind of go hand in hand, because if you choose to do only 6 months of engagement, then how much budget do you have to already give to this? And like, how long do you want to spare it out if you do need to like make some extra cash to put aside for it? How much do you need to save until this? And I guess just to throw in a couple more points for budgeting is, one, figure out first how much money is going to be coming from family, if they're going to contribute at all. So the best way to do that is to just be super straightforward with them and ask them if they plan or would desire to share any finances with it at all. But at this point, like, I don't know, like maybe it feels like it's the expectation, but I don't like that mindset. I would rather approach it where it's like, there's no pressure to have to, because I'm not entitled to your money because I chose to get married to someone and do this traditional thing in our culture to spend a ton of money. Like, I'm not going to pressure you to have to spend that, but if you want to, let me know.
Yeah.
And then kind of getting an idea straightforward of how much they want to contribute. And then this is an extra pro tip, which we talk a lot more about in our guide, is setting the expectations with family and how involved they get to be in the process of those decisions, because they are having so much expense like poured into it that they want to like have an actual say in some of those things. Like I remember our friends were really excited about their wedding, and their signature fast food joint is Cane's. And they were like, we're so getting Cane's for dinner. And I was like, that is so on par for your brand. Like, you got to do it. And they were planning on doing it, but then grandparents were contributing to their wedding, and they were like, there is no way you're doing that food. So then they had to choose the more traditional route and just do that dish, which is fine. But that was an element that like they didn't get to do anymore that could have been special for them because they had the contribution. Now, honestly, I think most people are the type where they like, honestly, if they're going to get free money, they're like, I'll bend over for you. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'll spend however you want if you're going to spend all that money for me.
Yeah.
And that's totally up to the individual and to the couple and what you're willing to compromise on. If you're like, we're doing this day because like culture tells us to do it, I don't really care, but like we'll have our grandparents or parents help pay for it, but they can have a majority say if they want. But if it's really important and special for you as a couple to have the day the way you envision it, then you have to realize that sometimes having family contribute can come with strings attached. And you just have to be super honest with them and ask them about that expectation of, are you going to want to say in certain elements? Are you giving this money to us with no strings attached? Are you going to be upset if we decide that we want to go a more unconventional or untraditional route with certain things and certain elements? And then just see what they say and then just kind of figure that out. And then the other thing is with figuring out your budget is figuring out how much you have personally in capital that you could contribute right away, and then figuring out your total budget and how long it would take for you to hit those metrics or to hit those targeted goals of, let's say that you want to spend $25,000 on your wedding and not a cent more, and you have 10,000 coming from family. Now you have to come up with 15,000. Well, the question is do you have 15,000 in cash right now? If you do, obviously don't spend every single savings penny that you have for this wedding and then come out of it with nothing, but then plan accordingly to like build up your savings and then use that. But if not, what are you going to do in the meantime? Are you going to pick up extra shifts? Are you going to like pick up a side hustle? Are you going to reduce your expenses right now? Like you really have to it's a really good opportunity to start being like financially responsible and figuring out how you're going to afford this and pay for this. Because you can go the route of trying to cheap out on those things, but I don't think that teaches you a lot about financial responsibility when it comes to now being a married couple and having to do that together. Because if you're just going to find a way to cut corners and have other people pay for things, doesn't really like give you a lot of life lesson as far as like how to make something like this work. Because you have a goal, you want to hit it. And instead of having someone kind of cop you out or buy you out of it, it's a great way to learn that. So that's all budgeting. Those are those extra tips that I want to throw in. And the next one that I want to talk about that we can chat about as well is picking your date. And kind of like we were saying with budgeting is figuring out what day you want to have this on. Now, traditionally, the best days to have a wedding are Fridays and Saturdays because it usually accommodates for anyone that's from out of town, people that have, normal 9-to-5 jobs or have kids and have a family and those kind of things. Fridays and Saturdays are the most convenient days to do that. But it has become a lot more common for weddings on Sundays and weddings on weekdays. At this point now, we've had a wedding every single day of the week. I've done Monday weddings, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, which are the weirdest days ever. Yeah. But we've done them. Yep. And they work. They definitely
And I will say, reason those became more popular too is definitely because of COVID. Yeah. A lot of couples had to reschedule, and because dates were already booked out, they had to kind of get unconventional with dates that were getting picked. So that was a big part, but since then it has continued on, and couples are now seeing like, oh, we can make this work. Yeah. And you also can save some money at venues a lot of the time by picking off-season dates or weekdays and stuff. So.
Yep. Yeah. The venues have started to like open up their venue spaces for like weekdays, which they weren't doing before. Usually it was just weekends. Yeah. But because we live in a work from home society now, and most people are, it feels like most people are self-employed. A lot of people can do those like weekday weddings and they can like make it work. Yeah. Before you couldn't do that like 30 years ago. That just wasn't enough like ingrained into the culture for them to be like, a wedding on a Wednesday? Are you ridiculous? I need to be home and in bed by 8:30. And you want to like open the dance floor.
Some people will still look at you like that for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, just know if it's your only option, like it is becoming so much more we see it all the time.
So. Totally. And the other thing too is because of everything backed up so far with COVID, like really impacted things, because what happened is everybody that had a COVID wedding, it got canceled, and then they had to reschedule, and a lot of them rescheduled for the next year. But then the people that got engaged in that season that were planning for that wedding now had to plan even farther out in advance. And so they're 2 years out. And so right now in the industry, I think there's this weird gap where most people have booked out like 2 years for venues where you can't even get a slot for like the venue of your choice for a couple of years, which is wild. We've had inquiries coming in for 2025. And I guarantee you that is because they wanted it at a certain venue. And that was the soonest that they had available for the venue. Yeah. Which is bananas. It's crazy. So that's just another hard
Probably,
part.
especially for weekends. We're talking about like the popular dates too.
Yes. Yeah, you can try and like do like a weekday and stuff, but it just depends on like what you prefer with all that. And that's going to be the most expensive days for sure. So if you wanted to save, you can go with an earlier day of the week. But you got to figure out what day works best for you guys. You know, if you're in school or if you have work or if you're in a master's program or if you have other trips coming up or you just have a busy schedule, just figuring out, when would be the best time for you to get married.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into picking the date, but we would just say don't sit there and be like, we're going to get married on this day and have that locked like in your head. Have a good timeline. Like we would love October, like somewhere maybe like towards the end of October, like something loose like that. Yes, you can have a dream date.
Right.
Sure. But don't go into all of your venue meetings with your hands like super gripped on that date and like, this is the date it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because odds are it's probably booked.
Right.
Especially if it's a very popular one. If it's a pretty date, like what was it? Mariah and Derek's wedding was like October 10th, 2020, like 10/10/2020. That was a very popular wedding day. Everybody wanted it. It fell on a Saturday. So like things like that. Like if you're picking a date because it's pretty and aesthetic, probably gone as well.
Right.
Just realistic here. But it could be available. But don't go into all your meetings with your venues, because that'll be our next step.
Yeah.
With a date locked in your head that like this is gonna happen. Go in loose. Like after you tour the venue, if you love it, they'll give you date options. And if you're if you go inflexible, you'll have a better chance of actually getting a time frame that you're looking for your wedding.
I would say a pro tip is go into booking with all of your vendors or like picking your date. Pick like 3 to 4 dates and spread them out. And then what I would do is reach out to the vendors. Let's say it's your venue that you really like, and then it's your preferred vendors that you want. So let's say you have a specific photographer that you want to work with, and you have a specific venue you want to work with. If you give the venue 4 different dates of your desire, and you ask them which of those days do you have available, and then ask your photographer what 4 days of those do they have available, and then see where they line up. So then you can go the route of like giving each of the vendors that you prefer to work with all those different days and see which one lines up with all of them. So like you might think that on the 21st everyone's available and that's the date you want, but you realize that on the 30th everyone is available for that day. And it might cost you a little bit more, but if it gets you the dream of like the venue and the vendors, then that's the way to go. Because we've seen a lot that people reach out to us and they lock in with their vendor first, not realizing that they still wanted to book with us, but didn't like consult us about our availability, and then realize that we're not available for them and they're totally upset about it. So you just have to figure out, if you have preferred vendors, how to do it that way. But having multiple dates doesn't lock you in on one, and it gives you a lot of options to work with those other venues and those other vendors. So that would be the main tips that we have for picking your wedding date. And then the next step is picking your venue. So 2 main options. You can go the traditional route where it's like a legitimate venue that's housed and ran by a business that's considered a venue, right? Or you could go the route of a DIY backyard kind of wedding. And I think that the DIY backyard wedding is becoming really popular. In fact, I would say even more popular.
You also have like church. It's a very popular place to get married to.
Yes, churches are for ceremony. Churches are for ceremonies, and then afterwards they usually go somewhere else. Like a lot of Catholic like ceremonies.
Then I would go one step further and say, like, as far as venues go, you have like venues that only do the reception, or you have venues that include ceremony and reception. So keep that in mind when touring and looking as well. So
keep that in mind. But I think that Airbnb venues have kind of become a thing. Like
I think they're getting more restrictive though.
They might be, but I know that some Airbnbs are realizing they can make a lot more cash by making it a wedding venue. And so they've opened up that opportunity for people, because it's like, I do have a massive backyard. You just need to be done by 10 o'clock, but you can charge 4 times the rate because they're using it for a venue space than it is for just a regular backyard. But then you get an access to that. And that's kind of what we wanted to do originally. We were hoping that we could get in contact with someone who had a big enough backyard, because we'd be able to save so much.
I'm so happy we didn't go that route though now.
I am. But I also know that it was just harder for us to do that if you didn't know somebody. But now Airbnb seems to be that kind of like, tool or resource for people to find that. But if you want to go like the backyard wedding, that's great. But what you have to remember is that now that you've chosen kind of a DIY backyard wedding, it's in the name. You do it yourself. So
everything.
You are responsible for pretty much everything. There's some companies that probably like would do it all for you.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
There's just a lot of stuff you don't actually realize when you go to do it all yourself.
Right.
Like tables, chairs, linens.
Yep.
Like you have to rent every single thing.
Decorations.
Or you have to borrow every single thing. But then
Yeah.
it's set up. It's take down after the wedding. It's who's going to do that. It's
Yep.
There's so much. It's food. Like,
Yeah.
are you bringing it in? Now you have to get all the prep work for that. Like, how are you going to heat it up? Get it
Right.
ready. Plates, silverware, trash after. Like, there's so many little elements.
Right.
So
It's definitely a lot, but we know that
totally can be done.
it can be done.
Totally. And we've seen it done really well.
Yeah.
But
it requires like having a really solid team of people to help you with it. And if you don't have that, then you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to be like, you want to go on your honeymoon, but like the next day you got to go do like tear down because no one else was really able to like help with it. Or yeah, like if you do like the DIY backyard, you also have to think about like factoring in weather. Like what if the weather isn't actually how you want it to be and it Mother Nature decides to rain that day? Do you have a backup plan for like umbrellas for people? Or are you going to just do it right in the rain? Well, you might think that you're comfortable with being in the rain, but think about your photographer, your videographer, and your DJ who have electrical equipment that if it gets damaged can cost thousands of dollars to be repaired. Now, those photographers and videographers and DJs should be insured, and that should help cover those things. But you just need to think about like the images that you're going to get from that, or like the quality of the music, because if you got like crazy rain coming down on everything and it's super loud, you're not going to have, obviously the crisp audio and dance floor that you were hoping for. And then you have like the fear of people slipping and falling and stuff. So there's just a lot that goes into DIY. It is totally possible to do, but you just need to know that it's going to be a lot of work. And if you want to do it, you're up for the challenge, go for it. But I would
lean on your community when you're doing that.
And I would definitely recommend like pushing your date back farther if you're going to do it that way, because there is so much more that you have to plan versus you pick a venue that like does it all for you. You have a planner that helps with all the stuff. You can do it in like 6 months and be good, but if you got to do more of it yourself, the more time you give yourself, especially with how busy you probably already are in life, because all of us are always busy, you're going to want that extra time to like actually like execute the way you envision your day. But if you're going to go picking a venue the other way, kind of what we were talking about before, just a brief note is it might be like a year or two out if your venue has like your preferred dates available. You're not going to go to some place and then be like, pick a date, whatever you want. It's yours. It's usually, well, we're booked out for this entire next season. We're booked out for next year's season. But we can put you on our cancellation list so that if someone does cancel, we can get you in there. I talked with one couple that they said that the only way that they got in with their venue was because it was a last minute cancellation and they were able to like pull it in because it was like on the phone call. They were like, we literally just had someone call and cancel, so like we can put you in. But like that doesn't happen for everyone. So if you really want the date of your dreams, you either have to get on a cancellation list, which is hard because then you're in an unpredictable season of, well, are we going to get the date? Are we not going to get the date? Or you could just have to go find somewhere else to book.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at pricing, and then you want to like ask questions about all that's being provided for and stuff. And by the way, we're saying all these things very vaguely when there's so much more detail that goes into it. But again, we've created an ultimate guide that goes through all of this stuff in detail so that you can have all of the resources and education you need to actually like do this right.
Yeah, we included like list of questions to ask.
Yep.
Like venues and venue spaces.
And especially if you get the physical planner with it, it has all those checklists where it goes through like the 8 to 12 month range, and then the 5 to 6 month, and then you have the 3 to 4 month and the 2 month, and you have checklists for each of those things and the questions to ask vendors and then like things to write down. It's got everything you could possibly think of, but we're going to try and keep it vague and to the point because we could make episodes about all of them, and that's why we made a guide for it. But we definitely want to at least still communicate the right ideas across so you have some general idea of how to get started. But if you are going to go the route of picking a venue, you have to kind of like price match and figure out what are they going to offer, what do they have available, how much are they going to contribute to the day? Because like for our venue, we got not only the venue space, which was great, but they gave us the option of...
We had ceremony, we had reception space.
Yeah.
We had a hotel room for 2 nights, the night before the wedding, the night after the wedding.
Yeah, because it was on a resort.
Yep.
Which is great.
It came with the day of coordinator. It came with like lunch for us on the wedding day.
Yeah.
Like we brought to the rooms. We got all of the like tables and chairs and everything along those lines. You can pay to upgrade, which we didn't do, but like that's another thing where you can like, it's nice that venues do offer those type of things.
Yeah.
We got all the linens. Like they had a ton of stuff that was like included. Was it all inclusive? No, it was more of like an a la carte You
Yeah.
get their standard package and then a la carte from there.
Right.
But yeah, venues offer a lot of different things. So they can either be like completely all inclusive where they do every single thing for you from like
Yep.
setup, tear down. Like they have decorations you can pick from as well. Like
Yeah.
there's a ton of things. Or like the a la carte kind of option, which is what we went with.
Mm-hmm.
They have package pricing. There's just a lot of ways
Yeah.
where they break it down. But
And you can go to either open houses when they
Mhm.
have like availability for you to just go check out the venue,
Yeah.
and you can just kind of wander and do your own thing, or you can try and schedule a tour
Mhm.
with them and just kind of do it yourself. But the goal is try and like make a whole weekend out of it where you can go to a ton of different venues that are
yeah.
like you'll reach out via inquiry first by email, and you'll ask for the pricing from them, and they'll kind of give you a general synopsis of how much it might cost for the different packages, and then figure out what's in your budget, and then try and figure out a weekend that you can try and get all of
Yep.
those scheduled to tour. So you can just go back to back to back to back and really take notes and figure out like what is the best option for you guys. You don't want to spread it out too much and then forget about one venue and all that they included, or not take notes on it, or
Yeah.
realize that, there's more to continue to see and there might be a better option.
And realistically, you need to get your venue booked in before you can book any other vendors
Exactly.
too.
Yep.
Like your date's going to change. All those vendors are relying on the date that you're like initially telling them.
Yeah.
So don't space it out too far as well. Being like, we'll pick within the next like 2 months. Like
Mm-hmm.
that means for 2 months, you really cannot book anybody else.
Yeah.
You just, they got to know a date. So
Totally. Yeah. And that's why the list that we give is based on like time sensitivity. So it's not like any other order, but it's based on specifically what we think is the most important because of the pressure of time on it.
Yes.
If you can't find a venue and you can't pick an actual date, like we just got an inquiry recently from someone who was overly ambitious who wanted to book us, but they had no idea when their wedding was going to be. And I was like, or Liz was like,
Of
this
where
is
the
wonderful.
wedding. Yeah, they have a date they want, but like
Right.
they don't know where it's going to be at.
And if
so.
it can be guaranteed for that date or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, we'd like to book you, but if you're going to change your date, then we might not actually have your day available for that day. So we can't book you until then. So it's important to find your venue fast, figure out what you want to do, and then lock that thing in. So then you can get to the next step, which would be picking out your vendors, which is actually what we go into next. There are a few main traditional vendors for your wedding day, and there's some other ones out there too. And there's probably trends of different things. Like right now, there's like a trend for hiring or having like a behind the scenes
social media. I've seen that.
media
They
person.
create like they just collect content for you throughout your wedding day.
They'll find like the TikTok sound trends and just make the videos for you.
Well, they have that, and then also just like a BTS. Like they go to like the detailed, just like so you can get tons of videos just like the next day. Like here, I just recorded a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, the hard
Cool,
part is
but-
I mean, like, yeah, it just depends on if your photographer and videographer are okay with that, because you want to be able to like work with your couple and be with them for the day without the obstruction of anybody else that's like right behind you trying to like get in and get a shot and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've been on some of those accounts being like, this is cool. They're very like, you don't see them doing stuff.
Yeah.
They don't jump in the way or like, can you do this for me? They're only recording what's happening and then they leave. Like,
gotcha.
yeah,
That's
they're
cool.
very, from what I've seen, they know,
Yeah.
they're aware.
Gotcha.
But
those are like some of the like trending ones, but the more traditional is going to be, of course, your photographer, which has been like the staple in the industry. And then you have your videographer, which is a new and upcoming popular vendor to have as well. It's still growing. It's not the most like, I don't want to say it's become like standardized in the industry yet.
like a wedding photographer is like non-negotiable. You got to have
Right.
one. Videographer is where people are like, do we need it? Do we not?
Yeah, it's the extra expense.
Yes.
But I think that it's growing in popularity to the point where it's almost become like there's no question. Like
Yeah.
you got to have a videographer.
Yeah.
Because of just that's where we live in now. Like everything is video. It's all short form content. It's YouTube. Like it's TV.
Yeah.
We love video. We don't look at photos ever. So I get that photos are like the thing and you obviously need to have them, but it's like video is everything. That's all we
Yeah.
consume. Why would you not want it for your day? So I get that some people don't want to do it, but it is growing in popularity. And we have a whole section that talks about whether or not to hire a videographer. And obviously we're a little biased, but we lean on the side of having a videographer, but there are so many reasons why to do it. And honestly, like, man, if we had to go back and we couldn't afford it, I would honestly like take a loan because like if you hire the right
knew.
team and the right people,
Yeah.
you know that it is
We put
so worth
extra
it.
money aside for our video. So
Definitely worth it for us.
oh yes.
But then of course we have your florist,
Mhm.
which could be either, you do it yourself or you have them just do some of it. It can be like a split, like kind of a hybrid. Or if you want to just go full out with a florist, you'll have them. And then you have your DJ/MC, and usually they're the same. Unless you're going a little more DIY, then sometimes you have a friend that MCs for the event, and the DJ just kind of plays music. But most DJs just do the MCing as well for it. And then you have, of course, your caterer and your baker. Sometimes they're the same if they offer like desserts on top of that and stuff. But that also can include drinks if they also have a bartender. If it's provided by the venue, they typically do like the drinks and they do the food, maybe not the desserts, but they'll like cover at least two of the three. But if you decide to go kind of like a la carte style, you have your caterer that you need to figure out, which is for your food for the day. Then you have to figure out your drinks, if you're going to do like an open bar or not. And going back to the venue option, some venues will allow you to bring your own alcohol. Some venues require you to use the alcohol that
Same
they have
with
on
food.
the premise.
There's a lot of, honestly, we can go in so far with like what venues include or don't.
Right.
Just honestly, just get our guide, look at our list of questions to ask, because that's where we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. But
obviously you have to figure out, what your venue allows and what you have room for planning, and whether or not you can do that by yourself, or you just have to choose to do it with them. And then finding a baker or dessert baker, right? That would be the word. Baker. Whoever's going to make a cake, if they're going to do a cake. We've also seen a lot of DIY cakes recently, or just like the nothing bun cakes, which are really fun.
Yeah, dessert tables are very popular. People would just do like a cutting cake,
or it's
so
like
cut it, and then
we've had like
donut
donut walls where they literally just like
take a bite of a donut.
Yeah. So that is becoming.
You can get creative.
It's becoming less and less traditional to do like the huge cakes that used to be like a thing. Only because it's such a huge expense, and it's like, come on, it's cake. Like everyone's gonna eat any cake that exists. Like unless you really have like a brand and you want to like stay in line with that, most people are like, we'll get a small cake and then cut up a Costco one in the back.
If you're a dessert people, like do your thing.
Well, there's so many different types of desserts to have too.
But if you're a cake people, do your thing and get your cake.
Totally.
Yes.
But it's like most people want to do like desserts and cake, so they'll get the extra things on top of it. So like the brownies and the cookies and all that kind of stuff. You get to choose for yourself. But then also, this is kind of like, it really depends, but you could have your planner. If you decide you can have and afford a wedding planner, usually you have the part-time planner and then you have the full-time planner. The full-time planner is going to be with you literally from the start of when you book them. For like every like 2 weeks, they'll probably hit you up. Like one of our friends that is a wedding planner, she is with the couple, talking with them like every 2 weeks, doing follow-ups and asking questions and getting everything lined up for them. And typically what they do is they will, work within whatever budget you give them, and then they will kind of like help you get like the best bang for your buck in the local industry for whatever it is you're looking for. And they'll have referrals for everything too. But a planner is if you don't do that, you can do a partial where like they start a month or two before and they kind of just like pick up the loose ends, or they put out the fires that you've started, and they kind of help you
coordinate everything at the very end.
Yeah, get it all lined up and good to go. And then the other option, which is the most common, is you have the day of coordinator. The day of coordinator is usually provided by the venue. If it's not provided by the venue, then you are responsible for providing one. And different wedding planning services usually offer just day of as well, so you can look up a lot of those planners.
I want to say real quick, just because I think you worded it weird. You don't need a day of coordinator. It is highly recommended. It is highly recommended. Like venues won't require you to have a day of coordinator.
Right.
Sometimes venues will like provide it. You can hire one to like bring in on the day, or you can just have the venue and like do the wedding. Whoa. Oh my gosh.
Do the wedding.
This is why I said over here and I don't talk.
We need a glass of water. I made a mistake, by the way, of drinking coffee, because coffee dehydrates, so it makes it hard to speak clearly, and I should have just got water.
Yeah.
What a mistake.
Yeah, did I finish my thought? Because
you were basically saying that like planners, your day of coordinators can be a part of the day, but they don't have to be.
Yes, like venues don't. It's not. It's not. Shut up. It's not a requirement to have one.
No, it's
not.
But
it is highly recommended to at least have a day of coordinator. Because you can either do like your family can help you out. That's hard. They want to be present. You want them to be present, and they most likely have not done this before.
Yes.
So having a day of coordinator who knows how it's all supposed to go down, make sure everything's in place, good to go, it kind of takes that pressure off of you, your family, your friends, so you guys can all be present on the day.
Yeah, and usually the day of coordinator is the one that's just making sure that everything is going according to plan that doesn't involve you. Yeah. Because usually your photographer and videographer are the ones that are next to you, making sure that you're on time for everything and kind of like cranking through photos or whatever activities you have. But the day of coordinator is the one that's running around to make sure that the tables are getting set up, that the decor is there, that the caterer is on time, that the dance floor is set and ready to go, that the DJ is good, like all of those things. Like they're the ones that are just going through and checking the boxes on things to make sure that you don't walk into just a room full of fires and have to figure out how to put them out. Because to be honest, when it's your wedding day, you don't want to have to worry about planning or having to make decisions and kind of like host the event. Because like you are hosting the event, but you shouldn't have to be responsible for putting out fires on the day of, because it's just going to pull away from your experience. Because all you're going to remember is, I felt like I had to just work the day. Felt like a day of work. Didn't feel like a day of experiencing with each other.
Yeah.
So that's always my recommendation. Like you were saying, is just to have someone. You can hire someone that is kind of like, in the industry or has done it a couple of times or wants to get into it. I would just recommend that if you're doing that, just be careful, because sometimes they say that they've kind of done it before and they kind of want to try it out, but they still have no idea what they're doing. And if they're not on the same page with like the photographer and the videographer, it could be a crap show. Like we had one recently where the coordinator...
And the DJ is important with the timeline as well.
Yes, but you could have a coordinator who has no idea how things really go when it comes to like starting a ceremony and if everyone's ready to go. And like this happened recently where I had to go and stop the coordinator from starting the ceremony because we still were setting up gear to start it. It was like, whoa. Like, hold on. I know you want to start this, but we're not ready yet. We need a few more minutes.
There was things that happened before, by the way. It was more of a DIY wedding. This was not
Yes.
Yeah.
But
there was weather things that pushed things back.
But I'm saying that like if they're not on the same page because they hired someone that kind of knew what they were doing, then you have that risk of them not being on the same page and things not going the way you want it to go. Yeah. Like one time we had a wedding reception where they were trying to do the grand entrance and I was still trying to set up my video gear, but the coordinator was like a family person or a family member, and they were like, we need to start this right now. We are 5 minutes over the timeline. We need to start this right now. And I was like, I just need to set this up real quick. Hold on. Give me a second. Like, what are they going to lose? 5 minutes of dancing? Like, we're okay. But the DJ was like, I'm sorry. I got
this was another DIY.
Yeah, they're DIY. You see the pattern, but it was like, just give me a second. And they're like, dude, I'm sorry. I can't, like, I'm being pressured way too hard. I just got to start this thing. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like I was able to like pull it together and make it work, but I was like, I could have missed this. I could have missed this moment for you guys because the unprofessionals for the day were the ones that were making the shots or calling the shots and stuff. And it's like, everyone needs to be on the same page with this. So if you're going to do like a coordinator, just like ask them, like, can you just like connect with the photographer and the videographer and just make sure everyone's on the same page for the day? Make sure the timeline is created, not just with them. Sometimes they might help with it, but if they're not that experienced, go directly to your photographer and videographer because they're going to know the day and how to run it the way you want it so much better than a day of coordinator. Because remember, the day of coordinator is doing everything without you for the day. Yeah. The photographer is doing everything with you for the day. So if you're planning your timeline, it doesn't make sense for you to do it with your coordinator because they're not even going to be there for while you're doing those things. And they probably have never been there with you doing those things before. But a photographer has, meaning that if like you wanted to schedule like family photos in this for the section, they might think, okay, you just need 20 minutes. And then you talk with the photographer and you're like, oh, we have 60 family members. They're like, we need an hour. And you're like, well, the coordinator said we only need 20 minutes.
You will not need an hour.
Huh?
An hour? Absolutely not.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
yes, you're being exaggerative.
I am. But sometimes I'm okay, but like it's variations of photos. Yeah. We have had to do like an hour of family photos before with like 60 people. So don't give me that. But just, point is just make sure everyone's on the same page with it. As for those other vendors, the only other thing that I would recommend is when it comes to like photo and video, because you can go and search up like florists nearby, do some recommendations, can look up some Instagram accounts, and you can find a lot of great florists. And most of the time, like they're all pretty like great at what they do. Because the thing is it's like, it's the same flowers. Like you kind of help pick your flowers out, but they're going to be in charge of like decorating them. And that's where I think where it's like a unique kind of like creative eye on like what they do is how to like place the flowers or where to put them or sourcing them and those kind of things in their experience. But I think that the really big de facto is your photographer and videographer, because this is the area where I think the most people want to cheap out the most, that has the most concern, because it has the most risk. Because if you decide to go cheap with your photographer, like we've seen this so many times. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked with friends who have decided to go with another friend or a family friend or someone else cheap that they want to do for their photos and videos. And they either A, never got their photos back, B, never got their video back, C, had to fight with them for like 2 years to get it, but it wasn't the video, it was just the raw footage. Or D, I don't even know what letter I'm on, but they took years to get you the delivered video and it wasn't even close to the quality that you wanted. And then by that point, you're like, I wish would have spent money. But the problem too is that when you go that route and it's not like a professional, you run the risk that they, one, have never done a wedding before, so they actually have no idea what they're doing. Just because they own a camera doesn't mean they're a professional. And then two, they probably didn't set up a contract with you. So they're not actually bound by any obligation to deliver anything to you. There might be this verbal agreement of like, you're going to get these photos, you're going to get this video. But if you didn't actually sign a contract that states like either when you're going to get those deliverables, what happens if you don't, what happens if they lose the footage, because that was another one. E, there's your letter E for you. They lose the footage. We've seen that a lot too. I have my own nightmare stories of that. We share that all in the guide. But like, if you don't do your due diligence and actually like put in the work to find and research someone that's going to be legit and do the day properly, you run so much risk that the only elements that you have for the rest of your life from that wedding day are gone.
Yeah.
Ruined, soiled, not what you expected, poor quality, whatever it is. You just run so much risk that that's like the only thing you have to live with for the rest of your life. And if you don't have video footage because they lost it because they just didn't know what they were doing and they're reckless, then was it really worth the $300 to not get anything? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a lot of risk when you go that route. And so what I would recommend is find referrals. So hit up your friends and your family who have already done like, you know, a wedding or they've gotten married or whatever it is, and ask them who they shot with and who they work with. I want to say 90% of the couples that we book are all solely based on referral.
Yeah.
Because they've had the experience. They've literally done the day with us. And so they're giving like the best testimonial case study that you could get because they say you got to work with them. They're the best. So asking friends and family is the number one way to go. Then the second route, if you can't find anyone through that, is honestly go through Instagram. You can go through like some of the paid like websites and like the Knot and that kind of stuff to find people. But a lot of those people pay a lot of money to be on those platforms. And there's a ton of competition. It can be super hard to weed out who's the best and who's not. And sometimes you can't get a full scope of like who they are just on that one website. But social media is a great way to actually get to know them as an individual and their work and so much more, because they usually have a deep catalog of work that they've showcased over the years of like what they do. Maybe some BTS and stuff on their stories and that kind of stuff. But going the route of social media, you can literally just search up your area and wedding photographer and things will pop up. And then you have recommendations on top of that and you just kind of search. But like, do the due diligence to find someone who actually knows what they're doing and someone that you love personally for like one, like the type of photos that they create and how they look, like the images, but also like who they are as an individual. Like, this person is going to spend the entire day with you on your wedding day. Make it count. Like, you're going to want someone who actually is going to be fun, who's actually going to add and engage with your day, not someone who's going to be quiet and reserved. And sometimes that's hard to tell. But you can look at reviews, or you could go and ask for like some referrals to couples that you've shot with, that they've shot with recently, and you could ask them for their perspective and stuff. But it's really, I just can't stress it enough. And I know we're biased because that's what we do in the industry, but it's one of the most important aspects of the entire wedding day, and so much circles around it. And I've just heard way too many horror stories of people that chose to go cheap, and it just sucks.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. So that's the advice that I have for that. But again, we have so much more insight into all the different vendors in our wedding guide that you can go and check out on our website. And it'll give you a full breakdown of every single vendor possible and what to look for, what questions to ask, what to think about, things no one thinks about, and so many more that can give you everything you could possibly need for booking your vendors. I honestly think that it would probably be in our best interest given how long this episode is.
I know. I'm like, dude, you little chatty Cathy over here. I'm just kidding.
And remember, we've scratched the surface, my friend.
You get this guy going, he will keep on going.
I get passionate about it. What can I say? But there's so much when it comes to planning a wedding. So many aspects, so many things that no one thinks about, especially when it's your first time ever doing it. And let me tell you, I've done it hundreds of times. I've spent thousands of hours with couples. What?
Well, we just spent the weekend with like your grandma and grandpa, and his grandma just keeps on chatting. You think she's going to stop it, and she just keeps going. And you have that little quality from her. And it's really cute
At least I don't say anyways.
Anyways.
That's how she transitions to her next thought.
Yeah, you think she's going to like, anyways, I'm done talking. It's like, anyways, that reminded me of this other story.
Yeah. All right. It's unfortunate. But yeah, point is I just get passionate about it because I've been doing it so long.
Yes.
And I've seen so many mistakes with couples. So many mistakes. So that's why we're making this. But we're going to split this off into 2 different episodes.
Maybe 3, depending on how much Kathy over here wants to chat. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding.
She literally, before
I'm just
this
tired.
episode,
I'm sorry.
Before this episode, she goes, "You're going to carry this conversation, aren't you?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Well, yeah, you're going to lead most of it because that's how I prepped for it. It's for you to do that." I was like, "Okay." And then I proceed to do that. And she goes, "You're such a chatty Kathy. You talk so much. You're just like your grandmother."
I think because it's just so funny. Your grandpa is more of like, all right, 3 words or less. We're going to wrap it up, give you the points, and that's your takeaway.
Okay, but here's
that's
the thing.
more me. I'm like, all right, here's your vendors. Here's a list of them. Here, do your thing. You got this.
Do your thing.
Just kidding.
And buy our guide because we know how to
then
do
this
your
one
thing.
will give you a 1-hour-long breakdown on every single vendor.
Welcome to my TED Talks.
You got the best.
But the thing
worlds
is like,
here.
I want you to contribute to the conversation, but when I stop talking, you almost forget that that's your cue to start talking.
I
So
just
there's a
start
lot
listening.
of awkward pauses where I'm like, contribute, and you're like,
I'm good, thank you.
yeah, oh yeah. So I would add to that.
My contribute is like, that's plenty on that topic. Next, and then you keep going on the same topic, and I'm like, you don't. All right. He got this. Let him take it.
Next time we're going to share our notes and we're going to make sure that there's even split time for talking about these because you gave me the impression that I needed to lead this. So that's why
I'm okay
so
with
much.
that.
I'm okay with that. As she just literally said, you talk so much like your grandma. That wasn't even like a positive. You tried to save it by being like, it's cute, but you were just subtly saying, stop talking. You've sent me multiple texts while we've been doing this being like, wrap it up.
I didn't say that. I said, this is a lot of content. We're going to have to split this into 2. And then I said, our baby's moving.
Oh, I didn't see that, but he's not moving right now.
Yeah, he settled back down. He was rolling around a bit. I was like...
Yeah, I actually silenced my notifications from you. I'm just kidding.
The man who talks doesn't want to be talked to. Understood.
It's on my nighttime mode. It's not why. I just didn't see him.
Well, anyways, it's bedtime.
It's Alyssa's bedtime, guys. I have to stay up and edit this thing so it can be posted tomorrow while she can go slumber away and dream about Coffee Day, National Coffee Day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyways, that's what we got for you in this first episode. Split in half or in thirds. We're going to bring the next half to you or more in the next episode. But if you can't already tell, there is so much that goes into wedding planning. So much. And this is why we created an ultimate guide for you guys. So if you haven't already, head over to our shop, grab the guide. You can get the extra guides too. We created an ultimate vows guide and a speeches guide because guess what? I love talking. So I've done a lot of it. So that's why I'm good at vows and I'm good at speeches because I don't shut up.
His vows are incredible.
But we've created those guides as well for you. But if you want to get the bundle, you can grab it. If not, we're going to be dropping the planner soon, which if you buy the planner, you get the guide for free. So if you want to get it for free, and then make sure to get the planner when you can pre-order. Put your phone down right now. Do you hear that? Do you guys hear that? You hear that little static in the background?
I'm so tired.
That is the sound of my wife causing problems.
I need to just turn the brain off,
She had her Dr. Pepper.
I've started slumping more and more the further.
Yeah, you look so low. I'm going to have to edit this down. You're going to have to be... Yeah, this does not look good, honey.
I told you this is the highest I was going to start, and then I started sinking. I warned you prior to this.
I need to add tracking for the camera so it just like follows you down. Oh my gosh.
All right.
Well, yeah, I got to get to editing this. You can go to bed. But we hope you guys enjoyed this first half of the episode. Make sure to stay tuned for the next one that's probably going to drop next week. And are we just going to skip our last segment?
I was about to ask you that. All right, we're going to do a quick rapid fire round.
All right.
Of our content.
What's your content?
Content. Ready Player One. I know it's an old movie, but we are on a flight and I started watching that again, and I am constantly reminded every time I watch it just how freaking good it is.
Oh my gosh.
Such a good movie. I'm not even a video game gal, but it just was so well done.
Gosh, I don't know why
you just
like it so much.
Get wrapped into the magical fantasy of it all. It's so fun. Yeah, rewatch that movie if you haven't. Rewatch that movie if you have seen it already, and watch that movie if you have never seen it before. Your turn.
Okay. For all my gals and guys out there that love John Wick, Peacock has just dropped the first and now today the second episode in their 3-part series of The Continental, which is basically the story of how what's his face? I can't even think of the guy's name.
John Wick.
No, not John Wick. The guy that's the one that runs the Continental. It's the story of how he came to like overcome the Continental and basically become in power and overthrow everyone that was in it. But it's cool because it has the same, to some degree. It doesn't have the exact same, but it definitely has the exact, not the exact same. I just almost said it's not the exact same, but it's like the exact same. It's very similar to the shooting style of John Wick, which is super cool. So
Yeah.
if you're like big into action and you love that stuff, then you'll eat this up. And what's great is they're like hour to hour and a half long episodes, which is nuts because it's like a movie.
Yeah.
Think about it. There's movies that are like
That's
90
true.
minutes long, and this like show is 90 minutes
That's
for each
crazy.
episode. So it's like 3 movies put into one, which is dope. So
A trilogy.
yeah, if you want, no, that's okay. So if you want to watch something great this weekend, then I would encourage you to start that because you could watch first part and second part, and that would be like 3 hours worth. But it's great because I watched the first episode and it was actually really good. It's got
Nice.
good reviews,
Heck yeah.
so that's my thing.
Do you have any comments?
No, but I'd just like to bring up the comment that you made earlier that I'm a lot like my grandma because I talk a lot.
Oh, I have
Thanks.
a comment.
Okay,
I actually was texted by someone about our podcast. Didn't tell you this.
was it my mom?
No. I
Love
didn't.
you, Mom.
Okay, I never know who actually listens to this, but apparently Hannah Carr listens to our podcast.
Oh, shout out to the Cars.
Shout out to the Cars. But she said, I just listened to your episode about pregnancy and sobbed. I'm so proud of you for sharing how it was for you and just want you to know that you are very not alone in that experience. And I thought that was so sweet because I cried like a little baby on that podcast. And yeah, that was so sweet.
That was very sweet.
I know.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah.
Aw.
Hey. I don't think you're listening to this episode because you are married and also have a baby.
Because you got married like 4 years
You
ago.
got other priorities than planning a wedding
That's true.
because you did that.
Yeah.
But if
We'll just
you
send her the
do,
little clip.
yeah.
Nice. All right. What's the challenge?
Challenge. My challenge. I forgot, but I did write one down. Anytime that
Move that phone.
anytime that you're gonna go out in public this weekend, anywhere you go, you have to compliment one person while you're out. It does not have to be physical. Like it's not like, oh, I love your hair, I love your shoes. If you mean it, go ahead.
Mhm.
But even, I don't know, get creative with these compliments. Compliment how kind they are. If you have an interaction, like go out of your way to compliment that person in a unique way.
Your split ends look so good.
Thanks.
Did you trim your nose hairs?
I
They look
did.
really nice.
That's not the challenge.
Did you deep clean your uvula?
What?
You said get creative, so I started getting
No,
creative with them.
I don't like that word.
Uvula?
Yeah, by the way, that's the thing that dangles in the back of your throat. That sounds weird too, the way I said that.
I think everyone knows that.
You don't know why I know this because of Monster House.
What is that? Is that
You've never seen Monster House? I
Oh,
think that's what
isn't
it's
that-
called.
isn't the one where it was the smart house and it locked him in?
No, that's Smart House, I think.
Oh.
Monster House is like the Halloween
How many
one.
houses are there? Isn't there just
Look.
house?
This one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Monster House. The house comes alive.
Why did that teach you about uvula?
Because when he was inside, the chandelier was like, the house comes alive. There's like eyes, the mouth.
Oh, and the
And
chandelier,
the chandelier was
its
its uvula. And there was
Wow.
like a joke about it. And
Wow.
like, yeah.
And that's how you were educated. Forget the school system. They didn't teach you that in
But I feel
medical
like
school.
in case people don't know what that word is, it sounds inappropriate. So I'm just clarifying. It is. All right. Did we finish?
I still have
What's
my
your
challenge to give.
You guys, this is falling apart fast.
This is what happens when we record this late. All right, my challenge for you guys is do something very special for your dog or your cat.
I was going to say this.
And
I was gonna
did
make this
instead.
my content.
Content.
Content. I was talking about that TikTok that you told me about that I didn't even watch.
Yeah.
But
Well, why didn't you do it?
because I wanted to talk about Ready Player One.
Okay. Yo, she's getting weird and delusional in the house. She needs to go to bed. All right, so we watched this video, or I saw this video like a week ago, and it was so sad. It was so sweet and so sad. And it was basically a video of like someone like doing one of those little reels where it's like answering a question that people ask, and it's like, why do you bring your dog with you everywhere you travel? And then it was like a montage of videos of their golden retriever with them on like all of their like road trips and flights and stuff. And it was like, because to us, he's just a chapter of our lives, but to him, we are his entire life.
I'm gonna cry.
And I was like, woof. No pun intended. That is like,
that hits
so,
me every time.
It is so true. We're his entire life.
Like I've heard that before. You telling me it was not the first time I've heard that. But you just forget and you need to be reminded of that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, people say they're just a dog. Okay, but you are like, you brought that dog into your family. You made them a part of your life.
Yeah.
So treat them as such.
Yeah.
They are your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give them the life they deserve. They have a short life. They do have a short life. So give him that life. Oh my gosh. All right, guys. So make sure if you have a pet, really just give them extra lovin's.
Just go buy that your dog that extra toy,
Get
that
him a
extra
puppuccino.
treat.
Go
take
play
him on
with
the extra
them.
road trip.
Go take them on the walk.
Yeah.
Go swim in the pool.
Just give them a really
Let
fun
them go
life.
play with their friend Scout.
It's also like a really, I feel like it's a great way.
I'm trying to see if Cooper reacts to any of the keywords that I'm saying.
He's slumped, dude.
He is.
But it's one of those great ways where if you need like extra motivation or a reason to get out and go do something, if you got a dog, boom, go to the dog park, go on a run, go take your dog, to wherever they love to be. If it's the like a swimming pool, or if it's, a friend's house where they have a dog to play with, or whatever it is, like do those things for them or give them the extra treat just because we love them.
Yes.
Dogs are the best.
All right.
All right. Well, that's what we got for you guys today. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Hope you loved it. Let us know with your comments. Make sure to leave us a rating and make sure to share this with your friends and your family who are in the season of engagement and are getting ready to plan a wedding.
Stay tuned
we got
for the
everything
other
for you.
parts
We got it
coming
all for
next
you.
week, okay?
We got it all for you.
All right. Bye.
We love you guys. Peace out.